What is up, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. This is my review of House of the Dragon episode 6. Damn, so much happened this episode. Well, we all kind of expected it because the time jump was also taking place. So we knew that this was going to be a crazy, wild episode with new characters, with new perspectives, with different plot points, with different conflicts that were coming throughout the entire episode. So I'm glad that they did that in this episode as well. I got a lot of thoughts. To be honest, I got a lot of mixed thoughts. I mean, it was good, but I felt like there were some moments that could have been better, and I felt like they changed a little too much from the book, from my taste. And I know that's probably not affecting a lot of you guys who haven't read Fire and Blood, but for me, I feel like there's a lot of moments in Fire and Blood that they just completely threw out the window and just decided to do their own thing. So let's get into it right now. So obviously the biggest thing in this entire episode is the children of Rhaenyra being actually from Laenor and not being from Harwin Strong. That's the question that's in the air all around Westeros, all around King's Landing, and it's especially one that Alicent wants to know, and it's especially one that Alicent is pushing King Viserys to admit, because we get that moment where Rhaenyra gives birth to her last son, which is Joffrey, and he doesn't look like his father at all. And I love that scene with Viserys coming in and being like, oh look, he looks just like you, man. Like, oh man, he looks just like his dad. And it's like, no, he doesn't. He really doesn't. The white hair is a key factor when it comes to being a Targaryen and a Velaryon. This is something they share in common. So the fact that they don't have the white hair and their children are coming out with brown hair is a key thing inside of Westeros, because that's kind of how they tell who's who, and it's just doesn't make any sense if that came from Laenor. So I feel like that whole thing is setting up an enormous conflict to come between Alicent and Rhaenyra, and I think they did a pretty good job with it, especially with Harwin Strong being there, especially with Laenor kind of being a distant father and a distant husband. So I appreciate that they did that this episode, because I feel like it's set up really well, where you get Alicent's perspective, you see how heavy-handed she is, but then you realize like she does have a point, because it isn't really his kid, which is basically outside of the marriage, which is kind of against what Westeros and all of King's Landing stands for. So I do feel like they set up that conflict really well, and it kind of sets up the future of what's to come. Something I was looking forward to this episode was the relationship between Laena and Damon, and I liked a lot of what we got. I didn't like everything, if I'm being real. I liked the children, I liked Baela and Rhaena being there, but I feel like the dynamic between Laena and Damon, at least in the book, is supposed to be like a really positive one that's mutual. Laena is supposed to be a badass, like straight up badass, tamer of Vhagar, rider of Vhagar. Vhagar is a legendary dragon. She is the one who was written by Visenya when Visenya came in with Aegon the Conqueror, the Aegon, to come and conquer Westeros. Visenya is the one who wielded Dark Sister, and she is one of the most powerful warriors in all of history. So her taming that dragon and her riding Vhagar and having this connection with Vhagar is supposed to be something legendary. It's supposed to be something crazy that Laena has just done. And in the book, she's described as having a free spirit and being a badass and being very strong and independent. And Damon loves that about her, and they have this dynamic in this relationship. And in the show, I feel like they kind of just rushed all past that and really didn't explore that too much. And also the relationship between him and his daughters is supposed to be a super positive one in the books, and in this show I feel like they did that a little bit but not enough. And obviously her death at the end, in the book at least, it's Laena trying to reach Vhagar for one last ride, and in this one it's kind of the opposite. It's her kind of giving up, and I felt like it didn't really hit me the right way, at least for what I feel what Laena should have been and could have been. This could have been a dope-ass character, even if she's only on screen or only in the book for a short amount of time. It could have been a dope character if you just kind of stretched out her story a little bit, and if you got to know her a little bit, and Vhagar, and her connection to Vhagar, because again, that's supposed to be a crazy legendary thing that she did. So I felt like in the book, it made more sense. And in the book, Damon trying his best to try and save his wife, flying out a maester to Dragonstone, which is where they are in the book, to me felt more natural and more real, and it could have explored a different side of Damon that I feel like the show has been trying to avoid. The show is desperately trying to paint Damon as just pure nuts and chaos and craziness, and I feel like there's a lot more to him, and he has a different side to him, and his children and his wife bring that out of him, and specifically because it's her. So I feel like the show kind of yada yada Laena kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but that's just me, obviously, because I read the book. I'm sure a lot of people are like, yo, this was cool, I loved it, legendary moment, cool moment. For me, it didn't really hit, and it felt like they were just trying to rush past all this just so we can see where Vhagar goes in the future. Another character that did a lot this episode was Larys Strong, obviously because he just killed his own brother. But I like that he created this army of whisperers, because in the book, Larys is supposed to be like a really low-key guy, but he's supposed to be a supposed master of whispers in his own way and a master of information, and he's doing his own thing and no one really knows what side he's really on. So I like that the show set up that he's just a straight up gangster and he's willing to do whatever it takes in order to better himself or in order to get himself moving forward, even if it is killing his own family. But I like the fire at Harrenhal too, which again is something that's in the books. I feel like the Harrenhal curse and the Harrenhal mysteries is something that always comes up in Westeros, and it's really good how they did it in the show. I like it because it's always this kind of thing of like, what happened there? No one knows, but oh well, because Harrenhal's so big and so crazy, and it has just this really dark history. So the death of Harwin is something that's so important, because again, that leaves Rhaenyra hanging, and it also kind of pushes the strong, mystery side away and lets Rhaenyra kind of be on her own, at least with Laenor. So I like that they set that up in the show. The relationship between the children is also something that's super important in the books. I like the scene where Viserys is talking to Lionel Strong and he's like, look at these kids, they're boys growing up together doing boy things, they're gonna love each other, right? And Lionel's like, sure, man, maybe. And I feel like that's kind of the whole theme. But I do feel like that moment, and the moment in the dragon pit with Viserys kind of taming his dragon and learning how to tame dragons, is like one of the most important scenes in all of the show so far, because that's what it all boils down to. This whole battle, this whole war that is going to happen is settled throughout dragons. The more dragons you have, the more dragon riders you have, the better off you are in winning a war and a battle. So the children learning how to control the dragons and Aemon being without a dragon is something that's super important, because that's key to his character and his personality, but it's also key with what's to come in the future of House of the Dragon, because dragon riders are like a commodity that you can only so have with that Targaryen blood. So it's so important for the show to set up this relationship that the children have with those dragons already, even though they are just young children. So I like that dynamic, and I like that they created that. So be on the lookout for that in the future to come. Overall, this episode did a lot. I liked a lot of it. I like, again, the children dynamic. I liked Harwin Strong's moment. I like the Kristen Cole kind of going dark moment. I thought that was different too, because again, in the books, Kristen Cole is not nice to Rhaenyra anymore. He is not the kind of guy you think he is. He really is the kind of guy who is just headstrong into values and morals and beliefs besides anything else, and that's kind of what he represents. And obviously that Kingsguard notion of him is something that's so important as well. So I like that they set up Kristen Cole being a helping hand to Alicent, but also being kind of bitter towards Rhaenyra, which is something that's important. So much happened in this episode. Viserys, the Strongs, Damon and his wife Laena, Vhagar, but I felt like it did a really good job so far setting everything up. So I'm excited to see what's to come in the future. I'm obviously a little bit bummed about Laena, because I wish we got more of her, and I wish we got a better exit from her and a better relationship between her and Damon and her children. But I like what we're doing so far, so I appreciate it. But either way, guys, let me know what you guys think of this episode in the comments down below. You can subscribe here to First Cut if you haven't done so already. You could also follow me at Squad Leader Ace. I'm obviously going to be talking more about House of the Dragon in the future, so make sure and follow me on there. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to First Cut on TikTok. Give us a follow on there. That's right, we are on TikTok, so make sure you guys keep up with that. I'm making basically small little videos about House of the Dragon on there, so I'm trying to grow it out as much as I can. So make sure you guys follow me on there. But either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, I'm going to be peacing out. So peace, deuces.